Welcome to Continia Document Capture webinar. My name is Mikkel Resbøl. I'm the Document Capture Senior Product Specialist at Continia Software. The keen eye has probably noticed that the car is sold, and instead we have invested in some running suits. Today we will go through some of the awesome and cool new features in Document Capture 407. During the walkthrough, examples of the new features is shown and explained via the setup. Before we get started, let's see what we have on today's menu. Our session today is based on our demo portal that is available to all partners. We'll be using NAV 2016 with Document Capture 407, of course. The demo portal is upgraded according to the upgrade guide in the installation package. I've already made the basic setup of Document Capture and other areas within standard NAV. The most important subject is, of course, the new features in Document Capture 407. Document Capture has been equipped with a lot of cool new stuff from head to toe. The agenda clearly states that we have enough to deal with today. Let's get this show up and running, taking a closer look at the new stuff in Document Capture 407. We start by taking a look at the appearance of Document Capture. To give a better overview, the layout of various configuration pages has been configured. So let's start by looking at the templates. Looking at a template card, it's clear to see that something has happened. The fields in the panel Purchase documents are grouped according to their function, which gives a better overview. If you go a little deeper in and look at the template field, it's clear that changes have been applied to the appearance too. A nice little thing is that only fields that make sense with the selected configuration are displayed. For example, if the data type is changed for the field invoice number, change it from text to number. The new settings are shown relating to the fields with numerical values. If the data type is set back to text, the irrelevant fields disappears from the card. In the document journal, we have a button called Translations, translations of salesperson purchaser. There we are. This menu has been greatly improved. Now there's an option to set up translation rules for multiple vendors and customers. For example, I can easily set up the recognized value John Carnes to be translated into purchaser IL for all vendors, and that Wayne Rodney is translated to AH for selected vendors. The menu item for setting up translations for sales and purchase is also available in the setup menu of Document Capture. When the invoice lines are entered, it is often with the same accounts and dimension values. In order to make it easier to handle recurring invoices, we've introduced the distribution codes. Here I have two distribution codes, and let's take a look at the one called phone. This distribution code includes perhaps account numbers, dimensions, and also a percentage distribution and many other parameters. can choose which vendors is to use this distribution code by clicking on vendors. Let's take a look at the invoice. This one. To use a distribution code, you just have to select the relevant distribution code via the menu button in the ribbon. There we are. And I can select the proper code. Note that you can allocate the entire amount or any other amount that you would like to allocate, and also if the line should be replaced or if you want to keep and thereby add new lines to the invoice. Distribution codes are available on the invoice card in both the NAV and the web portal, and also via the amount translations in the document journal. When speaking of approval, the issue 4 is approval, meaning two persons who must approve the same document in order to release it, unless you have Cyclops employed. This feature has been reserved for advanced approval until now. Let's take a look at this. Under Document Capture Setup, we have the option to enable voice approval. And we have 3 different settings. Not required equals to the normal flow. Required means that 2 individuals must approve, but one of the person's approval limit could be lower than the amount to be approved. The last option, required both with full amount limits, means that both approvers must have the right approval limits in order to approve the document. One of the major changes in Document Capture 407 is the introduction of accounts and approval rights, which replaces the well-known web user list. The setup of the approval groups determines not only what accounts a user can view, but also the accounts and the dimension a given user can approve. Let's take a look at this setup. In this example, we have two approval groups containing the setup of GL accounts, dimensions, etc. that the member of the groups may use. So let's take a look at group 1. The setup is divided into which account can be selected, the signing permission, and the accounts that the member may approve. So in this case, only selected accounts can be assigned, but all may be approved. An approver may be a member of several groups, which means that the rights on the different groups are added together. Let's say that a group allows access to some accounts and another group denies access to the same accounts. Then the group with the denial rule is the one that applies. When upgrading Document Capture, the former web user lists are automatically changed to approval groups. When working in a company which has several companies created in NAV, the several approvers are properly set up in the various companies. Creating and maintaining approvers in many NAV companies can be a time-consuming task. This task has now become much easier. Document Capture 407 allows you to create user accounts in one company and then copy the configuration to other companies. In the user setup, an approver is created as normal, including email, approval limit, and approval ID. Then you just open the window Continia Users and select Users by Company, User Setup by Company. With a single click in the column Access, the setup is copied to the other company or disabled. If the approval groups are set up in the other companies, the users association with these groups are also included. Note that it is possible to adjust the user setup parameters in the same window as you grant user access. The function order match is also greatly improved. The enhancements relates to the match based on the total amount and the notifications that the users are presented with in connection with matching. Let's start with a very basic rule for setting up order match. So let's take a look at the template for Kubot. Here you choose whether to match receipt or order lines. So for matching invoices, which types of documents would you like to match with? And the same goes for credit memos, return shipments, or return orders, or both. I've activated both. The way in which the invoice amount is matched has been changed to look at both the receipts and orders at the same time, giving us the ability to fully and automatically match an invoice where part of the invoice is received and some of the invoice is not received. Some of the order, sorry. Yes. If you take a look at the invoice from Kubot Technologies, the one for order 1003, it has become much easier to figure out what actually matched. In the comment section we see a polite message that tells us exactly what is matched. Should it happen that a match is not possible, Document Capture tries to guide the user with a message that explains why it was not possible to match. Let's look at the second invoice from Kubot Technologies. It concerns order 1004. When we activate the order match, let's try that. A comment is shown telling us that the order exists, but it could not be matched because the total amount of the order does not match the total amount of the invoice. When trying to match with the invoice from Blue Furniture, a message at the bottom tells us that the order was not found. Further examples of messages could be that the order exists, but in a currency other than the invoice, or that it was not possible to match since the location code on the order line requires receipt of goods. Until now, a user that wishes to reject a document has to enter a comment stating why the invoice was rejected. The comment that approvers entered could easily vary in quality. By creating a number of predefined rejection reason codes, you ensure a level of uniformity in rejection reasons, making it easy for the accounting department to figure out why the document was rejected. The setup of the reason codes allows you to choose which code may be used for certain actions. In the list of reason codes, simply tick off whether the code can be used for rejection or for put on hold. Let's see how it works and how we set it up. And some of them are available for rejecting, some of them for putting on hold. Let's take a look at the approved entries for NetHill and try to reject a document. Choose reject. I can choose between these three reason codes. I try to put it on hold. I have these two available. It's that easy doesn't have to be difficult. There we are. Sometimes an invoice or credit memo is received in which the total does not match. This is often caused by a rounding of the total amount made by the sender of the document. The difference was previously corrected manually, either in the invoice or in the document journal. Document Capture 407 takes benefit of the standard function invoice rounding precision to handle minor differences in the purchase documents. To set this up, two things must be in place for the invoice rounding to be enabled. First, we need to set up a few parameters in the general ledger setup. You select the appropriate values in the invoice rounding precision, say 50 pence, and choose the rounding type. Then I open the purchase payable setup and make sure that the field invoice rounding is activated. Now you can process purchase documents with differences up to 50 pence automatically without any manual handling. In cases where an approver has shared the approval, the assigned person is allowed to see the colleague's documents as long as the approval sharing is active. Let's take a look at the setup. As you may know, normal sharing, which allows a colleague to approve documents on behalf of others, is set up in approval sharing page. The new feature in Document Capture 407 is that the setup also allows the colleague to see the historical documents in the web portal. This means that all open and previously posted documents becomes available to the colleague, as long as the sharing is active. Here Richard Lum has chosen to delegate his approval to Annette Hill as a normal sharing. If the sharing is set up using the out of office function in NAV or the web portal, then as in a normal sharing, access to the colleague's documents is provided, both those waiting for approval and also historical documents. However, only in the specified period. The web portal has also been improved. Here are a few cool things that the everyday user, without doubt, will appreciate. During the approval process, it may be necessary to change the accounts on the purchase lines. To make this task easier, we have adjusted how the lines are updated. When changing the value in fields type and number, the line description is left unchanged if the text differs from the name of the account. Please take a look. The account number is changed from 8210 to 8230. The account is changed, but the description is kept. Besides this great improvement, help to fill out the lines is also added to the web portal. When a new line is created, the field number, quantity, is automatically set to 1, and simultaneously the amount field is filled out with the remaining amount of the invoice, which is the difference between the sum of the GL lines and the total amount of the invoice. Let's take a look at this in practice too. First, I need to change the line to 4,000. So we have a difference of 500. There we are. Then add a line. There will be account 8210. Both the quantity and the price has been automatically applied to the line. Could it be any easier to handle your invoices in the web portal? No. Let's take a look at the document capture setup, where several configuration options are added. If document capture is used in multiple companies and the automatic company identification is activated, you will now experience that documents which cannot be linked to a specific company will appear in a new column related to documents for unknown companies. The setup is very easy to complete. A simple mark in the field use unidentified company documents. There we are. And one other thing needs to be done. Need to add the column open UIC documents. So now all the documents that cannot be identified by our company identification text will show up in this column. When posting purchase allocations, you can now set up the posting date to be used when the purchase allocation is reversed. This feature addresses the challenge of reversal of purchase allocations in a closed accounting period. Change the setting to invoice credit memo posting date, and the reversal now uses the invoice posting date when reversing the allocation entries. Permission to force an approval can be enabled or disabled by a single mouse click. And in order to ensure proper entering of accounts, you can control if and how the dimension check is to take place. In older version, the check was exclusively done when approving a document. Now there are several configuration options for dimension check. If you want the verification carried out when the document is submitted for approval, just mark this checkbox. To enable the dimension check to run when approving, you can choose either to check at every approval or only when the last approval is completed. In some cases, the invoice is approved and released even though the invoice lines are not completely assigned. This could cause problems as the invoice was posted with the wrong amounts. Therefore, it's now possible to set up a rule that the amount on the invoice should be checked when trying to post the document. Here you simply select one of the 4 options on the list. The Continia Online setup has also a few new options. When creating approvers using the web portal, the users must receive a welcome email explaining that they are now set up as approvers. This email was previously sent automatically to all new users when exporting the users to the web portal. In Continia Online setup, you select whether the welcome message should be sent automatically or if you can only send it manually. If document capture is set up in a multi-tenant environment, the Continia Online setup now enables you to enter the name of the appropriate tenant. Several general improvements have been added to document capture. Here I will highlight 2 of the improvements. The license check concerning document capture objects is changed. Now the database can easily contain document capture objects without the necessary license. This allows installation of standard object packages where individual add-ons are not activated. They're activated when the customer orders the desired function, just like in a managed service environment. We also added French language and localization to document capture, which means that document capture can now be installed and used in France and in other French-speaking regions, like the French-speaking part of Belgium. It's time to visit Paris and the Eiffel Tower with document capture in your briefcase. Last but not least, we'll take a brief look at the NAV Web Client. With Document Capture 407, you can take benefit of the NAV Web Client. Just like in the Windows client, you can complete the registration and approval of documents, set up and configuration of categories, templates, and a lot more. Let's take a quick look at the document journal. Here we can, in the same way as in the NAV Windows client, see and manipulate, process the submitted documents. On the vendor lists, we have a well-known drag and drop box that displays documents relating to the specific vendor. And when looking at the invoice list, we see that the smart document capture functions are available just like in the Windows client. And of course also on the invoice card itself. So what have we been through today? First, we reviewed many of the awesome new features in Document Capture 407. Quite a lot actually. And then we looked at several cool new features in Document Capture and Continia Online Setup, as well as some nice general